Hi, everybody. So this is really exciting. We are here to talk about a very special movie that was released into the big screen, onto the big screen this week for its anniversary. I think it was released in 1982, so it's 35th anniversary. We're talking about E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial. And my friend Joe Tufano is here with me. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Joe Tufano. I'm a good friend of Rachel Wagner for about, 2 years or so?
At
Something like that.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've done videos before on like Christmas movies and oh man, following the formula in a movie and all that stuff. And I've followed her for a couple years and she's great. So thank you, Rachel, for putting out a lot of great content, and you've been a big supporter of mine, so thank you for that. And I'm excited to talk about E.T. because when she asked me, it's like I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, we have to plan another. It's going to become an annual tradition in a way to do our
Yeah,
holiday
yeah,
films.
yeah. Because a little story. I was almost I'm full time military now, and I was almost I almost got deployed to Jordan. Like my unit's supposed to leave for the Middle East pretty soon, but I
Oh,
ended up not going after all. So it's like I'm relieved, and I have a lot more time to talk about
oh
this.
wow. Yeah, that's good news. That's a relief.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so E.T., the Extraterrestrial, of course we know that it's about a alien that a little boy named Elliot finds. His family is in disarray. His mother is very upset because the father has left her. They're separated, and he's in Mexico, and so she's uh, overwhelmed, let's just say.
Yeah.
And there are three children in this family: older brother Elliot, and then little sister named Gertie. And this alien comes in, and the alien and Elliot end up developing this connection together. And of course, the feds end up eventually finding out about ET and they're trying to like study it and trying to take it away. And meanwhile, ET is trying to contact his family. And so that's sort of the basic kind of premise of the movie, and it's just really magical. But what was sort of your overall thoughts about the film on this rewatch?
Uh, you see, it's interesting that it was interesting to go back and watch it because I did watch this at least maybe two or three times as a kid, and it used to creep me out a little bit because like the first scene where Elliot finds ET in the cornfield in the backyard in his house, that literally scared the ever living out of me, just like it did to him. But I never really I just kind of like movies were kind of a weird thing for me. It was something that I would sit down and watch. My brain wasn't as well developed as it is now. I was like 7 or 8 years old when I first watched it, and I would maybe see it once in a while on TV, but I never really gave it a full watch. But now that I've seen it in its entirety, I am actually really, I would say that I still ponder, like what the whole thing was about and everything, because I feel like there's a lot of themes that pull from it. I think this is one of Spielberg's best films. I think he really,
Mm.
like, it was 1982, he was in his prime and everything, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of those things where I'm still amazed that it holds up pretty well all these years
yeah.
later.
Yeah, it's really interesting to compare because they re-released Close Encounters this month, and so I
Oh,
get to compare Close Encounters with ET. They both have somewhat actually kind of similar stories, a little bit at least. They both are sort of earthbound science fiction stories and about how people deal with sort of contact with the unknown and everything. And anyway, so it's been very interesting to watch both those films. I love both those films, and ranking Spielberg is like completely impossible because
oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
you just feel like a jerk being like I'm gonna put the dinosaur movie ahead of the
Private Ryan or something like that.
a Jewish Holocaust movie, you know, like
Oh,
you just feel like I'm like a horrible human being. So it's really hard. I feel like you almost have to put shit, because this list is amazing. I feel like you almost have to just put that in number one and then go on with your list.
Yeah. He's very diverse in his films, and because he could do something like a really intense war film, and then he could turn around and do something like a serial adventure thing like Indiana Jones, or do something very serious and small like Lincoln, or even a very serious documentarian like thing with Schindler's List. So
yeah, it is amazing. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from Catch Me If You Can to to Minority Report is like this totally different thing. War of the Worlds, like he has very few like complete clunkers. I really don't like Indiana Jones 4. I'm not a big fan of that, and I'm really not a big fan of the Lost World, his Jurassic Park sequel.
Okay.
That was very disappointing for me when I was it's not like a horrible movie, but like it felt horrible at the time because I was so disappointed by both of those movies. Were so disappointing to me.
Jurassic Park 3 also.
Yeah, because I love Jurassic Park. I'm a huge and it was the movie I saw the most in the theaters. I was just in love with it when I was a teenager, and so like to have such a disappointing sequel for me was very disappointing.
Yeah, it was hard. It's always hard to do that, but
anyway.
But
he just has very few like total clunkers. There's movies I thought Bridge of Spies was a little overrated. Like it's fine. I enjoyed it, but I thought it was a little boring and had some problems. So for it to get nominated for Best Picture, I was kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that. But still, he's still a great filmmaker. Anyway, so here he's at the very sort of start of his career. I mean, Jaws, oh my gosh, so amazing. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And so this movie has so much heart to it, and I think that is the key. And some people will say, well, it's very sentimental, and it maybe has almost too, like, for some people, I've heard people say it's cloying. I don't think so. For me, it rings true, emotionally true, and so I don't have a problem with that. But it's just a matter of taste at a certain point.
Yeah. Like my sister, she does not like E.T. at all. Like
really?
Yeah, she found E.T. to be very like scary, and she's not into science fiction, which I guess I don't blame her. Like, even though it's weird because she likes Doctor Who, which I guess is science fiction, but it's a different type of science fiction for her. But every once in a while, I'll do the finger and do the E.T. phone home, and she'll go, "Shut up, leave me alone."
Yeah, some people don't like the movies that really to try to play in your heartstrings like E.T. does and manipulate. It is a very manipulative movie, but I think it does it in the right ways. And so I got to see it on the big screen on Sunday, and it was wonderful on the big screen, just to be taken away by it. And I think that we'll talk a little bit more, but I think particularly some of the performances are part of the reason why it works so well. And you can see its influence on so many films. It and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think, are very influential on films like and Blade Runner. Those probably are the three most influential films from the 80s, as far as so many films, from WALL-E to Lilo and Stitch to I don't know. There's just a million other movies that you can definitely see E.T.
Like a Super 8.
Super 8, yeah, definitely, of course. Stranger Things.
Which I still haven't seen yet, but I want to.
Oh, yeah, that one's a good one. So, okay, well, so you have E.T. arriving at on Earth, and Elliot. So let's talk about Elliot.
Okay.
Elliot, is that strong performance I'm talking about. I think that that Henry Thomas, I think it honestly is the best child acting ever. Really? I can't think of a child actor that pulls off such emotional depth and so much heart, and it feels real. I mean, the only one I I do love the little girl who plays Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird, but I
Okay.
certainly think this is in the top 10, no question, for
Yeah,
me.
I would. Since I thought about other child actors like Macaulay Culkin or in
Hmm.
Home Alone, or even not technically he's not a child. Like the guy who played John Connor in Terminator 2, he was like what,
Mm.
13 or something like that. But still, he was young enough to be still considered a child in a way. So I
Yeah,
think
he was
that
good.
yeah, yeah, and I think when I think of like an emotional performance like from him, I think about like the scenes with his mom Sarah, or even at the end when he's begging Arnold Schwarzenegger to not terminate himself. But yeah, I will agree though. What's this kid's name again? And who
His
plays
name's
Elliot?
Henry Thomas.
Henry Thomas. Thank you. Yeah, he really. I was really. Child actors are kind of hit and miss for me sometimes. I can tolerate them, but sometimes I'm like, okay, kid, shut up, please. Not this one. He really. I was amazed at like how I felt for him, and he
Yeah.
was really really funny, especially when he insults his brother at the dinner table when he
Yeah.
was trying to convince his family what he saw was real. And uh, excuse the word or anything, I'm just quoting the movie. It was like, it's nothing like that penis breath.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does sell it. The funnier moments, certainly the heartfelt moments, like you really do buy that he's feeling that way about the frog scene. It is a really great scene. The uh, I don't know, just the emotion, especially towards the end when he's like, you're killing him, and you're
Oh,
killing him at the same time, and what
uh,
ET does, and it's just so good.
oh, that now that you just mentioned it, I'm gonna cry thinking about it, because I also think
Yeah,
about young Drew Barrymore.
yeah,
It's amazing to see that she's in this movie. Seeing her response and her like freaking out at what they're doing to him, it's like, don't do that to me. Don't do that. And I'm like,
yeah. She's
oh,
so good, so cute, and like the other actor, he does what it's I guess Michael Robert McNaughton. He does what's the older brother does
okay,
what's needed for the part. Like he's
yeah,
exactly what you need. So, but I know I really love Henry Thomas in this performance and the bond that they're able to get between ET uh, and Elliot feels very authentic and real.
yeah.
And so, what do you think about the mother character? I'm a lot harder on the mother than most people because it frustrates me because I feel like her children are having to manage her and like tiptoe around her, be like, why are you making her feel this way? Like, that's not a child's job. It's not the child's job to make you feel better about your relationship or to like, she should be the one in like comforting them, not like,
Not the
I
other
don't
way
know,
around.
just like that whole like anytime Mexico gets brought up, it's like she
Oh,
like freaks out and she's just so oblivious to like everything that her son is going through.
hmm.
Like you think she would at least ask more questions why he would do this with the frogs, like what's going on. And I don't know, I just feel like how can she not know that this is going on in her house? And I don't know, I feel like she's pretty self-absorbed in her own problems in her own life. And I really don't like the way that like that dinner room conversation and the way that I feel like her kids kind of have to manage her and keep her, happy and whatever. And I'm like, it very much like parents in most of these movies from the 80s are like terrible, horrible. Like there's Time Bandits or I mean it's just past the 80s, but of course Home Alone the parents are like awful,
Oh,
like they're just like the worst. there's
yeah.
there's so many, but that are really bad, and I'm not saying she's the worst of the worst, but I don't know, she just kind of annoys me, she kind of bothers me. So but what do you think about the mom? Do you give her some slack?
Well, I actually I found her. I found her annoying too, a
Yeah.
little bit. I there's a scene that happens in the movie. I think it was in the extended cut. Was there an extended cut for this one?
I
Like,
don't know.
because I know that Steven Spielberg like re-released it, but with an altered like additions and everything, kind of like what George Lucas did with Star Wars. But because of the backlash he got, he decided, yeah, you know what, that it was better the way it was, so I'll just restore it. But there was a scene where Elliot, he fakes being sick and everything just to keep an eye on ET, and his mom's calling him, and he's like, Mom, I'm fine. He's like, Mom, I'm hanging up. Mom, if you don't let me hang up, I'm gonna barf all over this phone. And he pours water all over it just to. It's like, oh, for crying out loud, let the kid rest up if you think he's sick. And yeah, I found her to be a little out of touch, I guess, just like
Yeah.
you said, and she's not really concerned about like what her kids are going through. Possibly, Elliot has probably got a lot of issues rolling around, because his father's gone, and it's very reminiscent of Steven Spielberg's own problems with his father. If you know
Oh,
his history.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I saw an interview with him on 60 Minutes one time where he talked about how his parents split up when he was a kid, and for a while he blamed his father for it until his later years, like I guess in his 50s or 60s, where he actually reconciled with his father. So I think there's some of that. You can see some of those things throughout his whole films, like with the relationship that the main character has with the father, or a father figure
Yeah.
of some kind. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean these kids are basically raising themselves. I mean, the older brother is kind of having to sort of, like I said, manage his mother in addition to being the one that, kind of is trying to help Elliot and
mm-hmm.
help it's
Dirty.
like the only really, I think, softer moment that she has is when she's reading the book to Gertie, Peter Pan to Gertie.
Sure.
That's a nice moment. But I don't know. It's like, I get it that would be like the most devastating thing ever to have happen to you,
Sure.
to have your husband leave, for another woman. That would be so devastating. But like, your mom, you gotta take care of your kids.
Yeah, and I'm no parent, but you got to try the best you can. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it'll be easy, and I'm no expert on parenting, obviously, because I'm not married and I don't have kids. But
Right.
yeah, you gotta find some way to make it work. And I feel like
Yeah.
maybe they could have had another scene or two where we actually try to get inside her head a little bit, because
Yeah.
I know she's dealing with a lot of emotion, but I think it would help if they maybe expanded on it a little more with like one or two scenes.
Yeah, I think so. Or like, just spent a little bit of time with her, sort of maybe asking a few more questions or whatever. I mean, you kind of need her to be somewhat oblivious for the story to work.
Yeah.
As far as you need her to not be aware of ET's presence in the house,
Hmm.
but it's more of her disconnect with Elliot and the way that her kids kind of have to walk on tiptoes around her that irritates me.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it does create with Elliot a character that feels very misunderstood and very unhappy. I think Elliot, would you describe Elliot as sort of a melancholy kind of child?
Uh, yeah, I would say so. Like, I kind of saw him like as like a normal kid in some ways, just very
Mm-hmm.
mellow. And I think only in certain situations, if the right buttons are pushed, he will really come out of his shell and
Yeah.
show his that deep, like, I don't want to say dark nature or anything, but like a really emotional side.
Yeah,
Because
I
he's
mean, this is
very
an expression
raw.
of childhood that I really love in a weird way. That sounds weird that I like depressed kids, but I find it very emotionally true. That kids have that loneliness, like childhood loneliness is a real thing,
Sure.
and we treat them only as sort of these precocious, like, and we don't want them to cry, we don't want them to feel. But I love movies that I love Where the Wild Things Are, and a lot of people think that's really depressing. I love it. I loved Pete's Dragon last year. I love Inside Out. I love
Good.
Lilo and Stitch, which also has a pretty depressed little kid. But I just think that we should allow kids to be like whole people, like
Yeah.
they're allowed to be sad, they're allowed to be angry, they're allowed to be, and if we don't allow them to feel those emotions and then teach them how to deal with those emotions, then why are we surprised that we have all these kids with ADHD and other problems? And you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, if we're not treating them like human beings with like a full spectrum
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So anyway, I love that, and I think that Elliot could definitely be counted in that group, kind of kids that's very thoughtful and very and but kind of lonely, kind of sad, and when
Yeah.
that's why it means so much to him when he meets ET and when they develop this connection, and
Yeah.
it feels very very authentic.
Sure, yeah, and it's kind of like what I think he needs, and not just him, but I think you see him like really not getting along with his older brother Michael.
Yeah.
Like they're fighting and everything. But E.T.'s that one like character, let's say, you know, he's an alien, but he comes in and kind of brings the family back together again, and
Yeah.
kind of what they needed in this time of in this depressing season of like her husband leaving and their father just leaving them for somebody else. It's in a state of confusion. They need something to try to bring them back together, and that's what E.T. does.
Yeah. I remember when I was just thinking about this because I watched and did a podcast on My Neighbor Totoro, which is a anime film that's really wonderful. But it's about these two kids whose mother is sick, and they meet this creature called the Totoro who helps them. And I was thinking about it because when I was little, I've written in a journal my whole life from the time I could basically write. And when I would read, if I read over my old journals, I talk about just how worried I am about things.
Okay.
And particularly when my mom had to go on full bed rest for her pregnancies. And so that was very stressful for me as a little girl. And I don't think my parents had any clue that I was as worried about it as I was. And I talk about in my journal, I'm talking about, I just can't wait until this is over. And I'm just I can't wait till the baby comes because then mommy will be back, and just so worried. And so I just think there's something about that sort of worry and loneliness and that is very like true to actual children. And when a movie like Totoro or E.T. or any of these films, when it can really, even Wizard of Oz, taps into Dorothy's loneliness and her not being understood, that is something that I think is very emotionally true and something I almost always respond to.
Yeah. Or even the Peanuts movie with Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that's another good example. Yeah. So I just love that. And I love that about, I think that Henry Thomas is so good at portraying that. And anyway, so the mom, it's an interesting character, and she is very 80s. Like I said, sort of feels very latchkey kid kind of a thing. Like that was an 80s thing. So now we have kind of like the hovering parent. I feel like is what you see now more like they're as opposed to the 80s in movies. I think the parents were more like were more just sort of negligent.
Kind of like
both extremes.
Yeah, because I feel like that comes with the times, though. Like my grandparents grew up in the 30s and 40s in New York City, so they kind of had the freedom to roam around the city as long as they didn't go to the bad spots and everything. Yeah. But now that we, there's so much stuff that has changed now that parents are very, very cautious, almost to the point where it's pretty overbearing, and they have to let their kids roam free a little bit so they can experience some freedom on their own and be their own person.
I like that she doesn't even ask her kids why all this beer's been drunk. You think they'd be like, she just like picks up the can and she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, my son's intoxicated. Are you sure you got the right kid? Like, all these things are happening. You're a mom? Hello?
So what do you think about E.T.? Do you like the design of E.T.? A lot of people say it looks like a shrunken man or whatever. What do you think? Do you like the design?
I think it, actually, just made me think about this. I've never really had a problem with it. I mean, as a kid, it freaked me out, obviously, because, it was an alien. But I think it looks fine. And it's very, I don't know if inspired by Yoda is the right word, but he definitely kind of waddles around, and he's probably the same height as Yoda is, and which I thought it was really cool how we saw that kid in the Yoda costume and tried to walk over towards him thinking that it was an alien, and which is something that was referenced in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always liked the design, and I liked how when his head goes full up and you could see his neck and everything, and I think it was kind of cool, and I was expecting it to look a little bad, I think I don't know if it was a puppet or an animatronic, but even then I thought, wow, he still looks really good.
Yeah. I really like the design of E.T. One of the things I never liked about, even though I really do like Lilo and Stitch, I never liked the design of Stitch. I always thought he looked kind of like a cockroach and just looked kind of gross.
Yeah,
and so, I don't know, I just think that I prefer this more cuter kind of alien like you get with E.T. I guess if I was going to nitpick, I think when the heart becomes red, that's a little cheesy, but but it works. I really like the design of ET, and I think it works, you know, with sort of Elliot and Gertie teaching ET how to speak, and that sort of, I like the fact that he doesn't speak English right away, you know, that's
oh yeah, because he's
so,
studying the world around him and he's trying to see like what's all this, what's going on.
yeah,
I like it when a character does that.
Yeah, he gets to the phone home moment, I think, in an authentic way that feels believable, at least
And
a
I
little
love,
bit.
oh yeah, sorry, but I love the brother's reaction as he's coming in. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And and he's like, "Oh my god, he's talking now."
Yeah, that is really good.
Just a little FYI, that the brother, I always thought he looked like the kid in that Free Willy movie. Wouldn't you say, like with the haircut and everything?
He does kind of.
I
Yeah.
always thought those two were related, but I thought, oh, guess not.
He's like the classic, I don't know, sort of 80s older brother kind of
Jock brother
thing.
kind of thing.
Like the older kid in like Josh Brolin in Goonies, or yeah, the older brother in Home Alone, like it's just or nice. In it's not the 80s, but I think the older brother in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
What's the original?
What's that?
The original Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's been a long time since I saw that one.
They're just that sort of archetype of like
yeah, or even recently, like Jurassic World with the two kids, like the older brother and the younger brother.
That's true. Yeah, it's a true, as someone who had an older brother, I could say it's a fairly accurate archetype. It's a fairly accurate.
Yeah, and I feel I've been that way sometimes with my sister. She's 3 years younger. I'm sorry, sis, if you're watching this.
So we get to this scene with he's teaching ET how to talk, and he decides to keep him, and then he ends up having to go to school. He's able to get out of school one day, and then he ends up having to go to school, and there's this scene with the frogs. What do you think of that?
I always found that, like, at first I found that to be a little bizarre, because as a kid I didn't really get it, but I think I'm getting, because he's developing a psychic connection with ET. Is that what it's all about?
Yeah.
Okay. And I always found it kind of cool that ET is watching the Quiet Man, or whatever that's called, with John Wayne.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that a few times around St. Patrick's Day, and when the classic moment when he grabs Maureen O'Hara and kisses her, and Elliot does the same thing to the girl. It's like, whoa, yeah. Moving up in the world, Elliot.
Yeah, you do get a few different movie references. You get The Quiet Man. You have Star Wars, certainly in there. There's some others that I didn't write down, but yeah, there's a few in there for sure. And yeah, I mean, because I feel like it feels emotionally true that, like, at that moment that Elliot would kind of lose it in a way and, like, release all the frogs, you know, that, like, he couldn't take it, killing these frogs.
Because of his bond with ET, I guess he has an appreciation for something that he never really thought of, like some sort of creature that could potentially, you know, be tortured in the way, which is what happens later on in the movie with ET, when he sees what the government scientists are doing to him. I think that now I just thought of that, actually. That's maybe what it was hinting towards, like towards the end. I think that's maybe the thought of it kind of freaked him out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like, I don't know, he just has a break that I feel like a lot of kids would. So yeah, he releases the frogs, and it has the great kiss scene. That's really, really funny. and that it keeps, like, as much as I absolutely love, like, Lilo and Stitch, and I love Where the Wild Things Are, they're so good, but I do think that both of those movies could use a little bit more sort of the humor interjected and a little bit lighter moments, that sometimes they go a little too far, but I still love them. But with E.T., I do think he manages to balance out tone so well.
Yeah. There's a sense of awe and childlike wonder throughout it. While it's, I guess you could say that it is very serious and sometimes very dark, because you know,
especially towards the last act.
Yeah, because I that's the impression I get, like from movies like Super 8, which came out a few years ago, and even from what I've seen, like the clips of Stranger Things, it has this kind of eerie outer space kind of feel to it, but yet there's like this sense of awe and wonder and excitement. You know, this little kid seeing this alien for the first time. It obviously be really exciting to a kid like Elliot. So yeah, I think he found just the right blend of a tone to use in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And so so he ends up releasing all the frogs, and we end up pretty soon after that we get the introduction of the feds, and that's when they burst into the house. Well, first they set up the phone.
Yeah, the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they think that's another frustrating scene for the mother, because her son is missing. Elliot shows up again, returns, whatever. She's sitting there talking to the police officer, and her immediate response is, how could you do this? You know, her immediate response is, "Don't ever do this again." And you're just like, this isn't about you. Like, this is about your son is suffering. Like wake up.
It's almost like I wanted her to say, I was like, "Oh, thank God you're okay," and all that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, he's your son.
Don't ever do this again. You're like, what? What is that? So anyway, but yeah, so they go, and that's the first time we see him fly too, is when they're setting up the
oh yeah,
the telephone.
When he flies against the moon and that iconic scene, and you see that on the Amblin Entertainment logo that you see in certain films. And that music, my gosh, the music by John Williams, the master of his craft.
Yeah, there's nobody better at particularly writing themes to movies than John Williams. There's just not. It's just unbelievable. Before Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they had a little interview with Steven Spielberg, and he said that because this was the second, his Close Encounters was the second movie that he made after Jaws, and he said that he kind of wondered after Star Wars if John Williams would have any more to give. Like he's like, that music was so spectacular, so amazing. Would there be anything left? And then you get the music for Close Encounters, and it was amazing. Of course, he did amazing music for Jaws, and then it's just, and then E.T. and it's just so amazing. It just like seeing it in the big theater when Elliot gets lifted up in that music. It's just like you feel relief. You feel excitement, exhilaration.
Yeah. My mouth was like just opened up ever so slightly when it went up, and it went I went, oh wow, that's incredible,
unbelievable, so good, and it's a really just, I don't know, it's just a great little segment, and he's setting up this phone, and Elliot is very worried. They're just out there. It's just, you're just like, what's going on? It draws you in.
Yeah. Especially like I like seeing the older brother going out to look for E.T. It shows you that he's gone from being that jerk brother to someone who actually cares about others. And to see him like just a little thing real quick to go backwards when Drew Barrymore sees E.T. for the first time, and she's like, and even the older brother's like freaking out, and then like put him in the closet. There's like, you cannot tell anybody about this. And she goes, or what? And the brother's like, then what's going to happen. And he takes her doll away, and it's like, Michael, do it. And the older brother's like, oh no. And she's like, no, don't. It's like, oh, come on, don't do that to her. but bottom line, I like seeing how he goes out to look for E.T. and seeing how terrified he is of how E.T. looks. He's like he's aged like so quickly, if you know what I mean.
I mean, it's interesting that Gertie is more aware of things going on in their house than the mother. But she's so cute, and I was like, so good. Yeah.
And also Drew Barrymore, she was great in this one.
Yeah, she's really good too. I mean, she brings on the feels too. I mean, she's not just sort of the precocious, cute little kid. Like, she actually has some weight to her part that makes it feel authentic and real. Yeah. And that's just the way I would describe this movie. Is it just, to me, feels very authentic and emotionally true. to what these people would actually be feeling, I think. And so yeah, you do get the scene where the brother finds E.T. after they've been out, like they're trying to call home, but then they end up setting up the phone and it's doing its job, but they
get separated.
Yeah, I guess. And so yeah, Elliot is very very upset, of course. And they bring back, that's really devastating when you see ET and he's all white and you think he's died. It's pretty upsetting.
Yeah, and his mom, when she sees him in the bathroom, she obviously is like, get out of here, get out of here. It's like, come on, he doesn't mean any harm, and he's like reaching out, it's like, help me. It's like, come on, help him out. And it's like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
Yeah. And it's just, it's so good. It's so good. And you do also have like the sort of the neighborhood boys, which I like that they didn't like go too far with the whole like neighborhood bully thing. Like they kept it, they kept it believable. They kept it within sort of a believable. I feel like certain movies now, it's like bullies are like practically murdering kids. Like they're taking it too far sometimes.
Yeah, I could see what you mean. I feel like,
what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the little fun fact, one of those kids, the one who says maybe he's from Uranus, get it, Uranus? He's like, he doesn't get it. That's the actor is C. Thomas Howell from The Outsiders. He plays the main character, Ponyboy Curtis.
Oh, cool.
And I actually saw him, just a little fun fact, I didn't meet him, but I actually saw him at the Philadelphia Comic-Con a couple months ago, and I thought, whoa, that's cool.
Nice. That's really cool. Huh. Yeah, it does have that kind of feel, The Outsiders, some of the Goonies kind of a thing, where it's like, I really like that kind of dynamic when they don't push I think The Sandlot basically feels that way, like movies like that about childhood where it's like, you've got kind of a bully type, but like they're still a kid. And
and they end up helping E.T. anyway in the end, like when he comes out of the ambulance and they're all like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, they save the day. They bring the bikes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really attractive too about the bikes, that like, because they can go places that the cars can't go. They can do things like they have, like, kids. When you're a kid, you want to feel like you have power.
Yeah.
And so they can do things. Iron Giant is really good at this. That's another movie that is very emotionally true and allows kids to be lonely and definitely influenced by E.T. But like that they can go places, they can do things like that kids want to feel, at least I did. I wanted to feel independent and that I was smart and that I could figure things out, that, like Time Bandits is really good with this, that it's the boy in Time Bandits who's the smartest person in the room at all times. And that's so appealing to kids.
Yeah. And I feel like, other examples, like, I think like Harry Potter kind of does that in some ways.
Yeah.
Like them growing from like 11 years old up until their adult years. They kind of do that similar thing too. And I definitely felt that way sometimes too. And so, you're right. I like how, and they know their neighborhood very well, better than the government agents do that are chasing them. So it's like, yeah, this way through the backyards. And they're like, and they stop like, which way? Go back.
Yeah. Cause that's really like freeing when you're a kid, when you get a bike or when you get something like that, and you get this certain degree of sort of freedom of
exactly.
Yeah. So I really like that. And anyway, and so the feds come in and they like tape everything off, and they like, what do you think? Do you think that Spielberg is trying to say something in these sequences about government or about anything? Do you feel like this movie has like a message?
I guess, I don't know. I think maybe in some ways he was like, obviously, we as human beings are like, when we see something that we've never seen before, we want to know, we're very curious about it. And it all depends, like different types of people in certain positions in life. Elliot is very amazed by it, but obviously the government, they see this alien creature. They want to know where the heck it came from, if it's hostile or friendly. And I feel like, like the scene in the ambulance when E.T. comes up and he's got the white robe on, a lot of people thought that there was like a Christ imagery kind of thing. And I never had a problem with that personally. I'm just putting it out there. I don't mind that stuff. But I feel like in some ways E.T. was kind of like, the thing from another world who comes down on Earth, and he interacts with people. Some people don't understand him, and they're afraid of what he could do, so they kind of they go too far. And
Superman would like that too.
yeah, exactly. That's good. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that.
Another John Williams score.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's another John Williams thing. I completely forgot. And there's just real quick. There's even a couple of times where the music kind of sounded like Star Wars. Where I thought, whoa, what movie am I in?
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing though. But still, I thought, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I could see how some people could see that as like an anti-government kind of message because it is pretty like they are horrible. They're like evil, but I don't take it that way.
Well, except for that one doctor though, who talks to Elliot. Like he's somewhat sympathetic.
Yeah, what is it? Peter? Yeah, I think that's Peter Coyote I think is Keys. I think is his name.
Okay, yeah, I never knew who that actor was, but he was like the one character from all the other government people that actually was genuinely like, hey, Elliot, let me help you out. What's he trying to do? And he doesn't really seem to be like trying to stop E.T. from leaving. He's just watching because he's so amazed, and he talked about how he's been waiting for that moment ever since he was a kid.
Yeah, that's true. He is the one person who has some sort of humanity and awe. And I think that it's more he's trying to say, I think Spielberg is not trying to say the government is horrible and that
no.
I don't think so. I think he's trying to say that like we don't stop and listen to people. Here Elliot is saying like, stop, listen, you're killing him. We just go and we don't so
like
often
in
life.
Yeah, we're very critical of what we see instead of thinking about what we're seeing. To quote Chris Stuckman, like we tend to be very critical of what we're seeing on the surface.
Yeah. And acting also like that so often in life and in government and in so many things, we act out of fear rather than like actual, like what's going on, that like, I'm again, not to get political or whatever, but like when something is presented that's say about immigration or about, whatever, are we making a decision that's based on actual statistics and rational whatever, or are we basing it out of fear, a fear of the unknown, fear of what we don't understand, fear of something that might hurt us, whatever it might be? And we may not, I'm not getting into that, but I do think that there's something about that Spielberg is trying to say here about like how they are sort of acting on fear. And you definitely get that in Close Encounters of the Third Kind for sure. And to be very skeptical of kind of power and media is a big message in Close Encounters. But here it's more just kind of that we allow fear to control us, and we don't, and it takes away people's humanity. It takes away E.T.'s humanity. It takes away even some degree Elliot's humanity that they're willing to do, and they're not listening. We're not talking. We're not, kind of a thing. So I think that's sort of the message. But I think it always manages to keep a very hopeful tone, even in the darker segments, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah. Like after all that stuff happens, like when the flowers start to die and Michael is freaking out, and you see Elliot say, "You're killing him," and then you see the younger sister like start breaking down, and that still got me, even like now. And I thought, oh God, no. And then when he's talking to E.T.'s dead body, like he still maintains his love for his friend, and it's like, oh, emotion. And then all of a sudden you see the heart start to light up, and it's like, he's back. It's like, it's just like that one little talk, I guess, show that he can still, what am I saying here? It's like it brought him back to life in a way. A message from his friend, I guess, right?
Yeah. That love that they shared, that connection, that's what made his heart beat again.
Yeah, and it's really funny how he keeps saying E.T. phone home, E.T. phone home. It's like, shut up, they'll hear you.
Yeah. And I guess that, like you were saying, some people see it as a spiritual parable of, you got the resurrection of E.T. at the end, because of the love he has. And I think that's definitely a valid interpretation. And that it says that some describe it as crucifixion by military science and resurrection by love and faith.
I could see that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like not to get into like the whole science and religion debate. I mean, I'm just saying I think both can, go hand in hand. They can, be friends and coexist. But I feel like it's similar to Doctor Strange. Like he's very rational. He's very atheistic and nihilistic. He doesn't believe in like a god or anything like that. And he spouts out his rational viewpoint to Tilda Swinton, and then she shows him what's really there. And it's like you get so locked into that mindset that you kind of end up destroying something that if you really stop to look at it, it's actually really beautiful in its own way. And
yeah, I mean,
it has more power.
I went to a lecture by Lois Lowry, who did The Giver. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. It's a really good book.
Yeah, I read it in middle school.
Yeah, I don't like dystopian, but I actually do like that book. And somebody asked her, like, were you trying to give a Christ metaphor? And she just said, if it means that to you, that's what it means. And so I always thought about that because Spielberg is Jewish. I highly doubt like he was intending to like have a Christian metaphor, but like if it means that to you, then that's what it means. And so I think it's certainly a valid interpretation, and that's what art can do. It can mean different things to each viewer, and so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people can and will take different messages away from said films, but even like the Indiana Jones Last Crusade obviously has references to Jesus, like with the Holy Grail and everything. But
yeah,
even then, whether you're a Christian or not, it's still an interesting story, like to know about like how to find the Grail and everything.
Yeah. Actually, there's a quote here on Wikipedia from Spielberg. It says, if I ever went to my mother and said, Mom, I've made this movie that's a Christian parable, what do you think she'd say? She has a kosher restaurant on Pico and Donny in Los Angeles. So yeah, he says it wasn't meant to be. He didn't intend it to be, but like I said, if that's what it is to you, then that's what it is. And so I think it's more just sort of how sort of love, it's going to sound cheesy, but I think it's about how love can conquer fear and save us from, the worst, like the feds represent the worst of human nature, basically in this story.
Yeah.
They're evil. With the exception of that one guy, but they pretty much represent the worst. They represent fear and judgment and all these things, and then basically like Elliot and E.T. are the good parts of human nature. It's love. It's and that can save us. That can save Elliot. It can save E.T. All of that. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, it's it's. I think it could have easily done it in like such a like an in your face kind of thing.
Yeah, really heavy handed.
But it's very subtle. I mean, I don't know if subtle is the right word. It's played very tastefully, I would say.
Yeah. It works. It's because you can manipulate. All movies manipulate you, but then there's some that manipulate you so that you are annoyed, and then others that manipulate so that you're moved and that it works. And so it just depends.
Sure, yeah.
So, okay, well, yeah. So Elliot and E.T. are, like I said, connected, and they think that so E.T. basically sacrifices his life in order to save Elliot and give him his spiritual essence, I guess. And so they declare him dead. They declare that E.T. has died, and then we see this scene, very touching scene, and very well acted, I think, by Henry Thomas, that where he's saying goodbye to E.T. And it's really good, really good.
Really tears your heart out, actually.
Yeah. And just to see him all like white and pasty and stuff, it's like,
it's like I feel like my soul's died somewhere. I don't want it to come back.
So then he ends up, of course, waking up, and there's the last part of the movie is this chase sequence that's really fun with all of the boys on bikes and them taking E.T. to his ship has come back. They've responded to the phone, and he's come back, and so they need to take him back, and it's so good. That, and then the it's just, you get the scene not only with just Elliot flying on the bikes, but all of the boys, and that's really
yeah. Yeah, I think even the responses on their faces are like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
And one of them's like, "Don't look down, don't look down." That's probably how I would be. I'd be like, "I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna die."
And that's something that you need in a movie like this. When something like that really happens, you need that human emotional reaction to something really extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because then the audience is feeling it too, that you're going along with them. Because otherwise, if they're just kind of, not to mention the Star Wars prequels, but if they're looking like if they have that "I don't care" look on their face, you're not going to feel anything.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And so they end up finding the ship, and then they say their goodbyes to E.T., and it's very sad.
And
so sad.
Seeing Drew Barrymore crying, saying goodbye, giving her that what was it, the flower or something? I forget.
Yeah, the flower.
Yeah. She said, "I wanted to say goodbye," and I thought, oh. And seeing the older brother say goodbye, and like touching his face, and E.T.'s like smiling, like, "Hey, you know what? You're actually really cool. I do like you, and I'll miss you."
Yeah. And of course Elliot saying goodbye, and it's just like you feel really sad, of course, that Elliot's losing E.T., but you also know that like E.T. will always sort of be a part of him. And that he'll be able to recover, and that after, with that as a part of him.
Because the impact he made on Elliot and his family, like he brought the family back. He helped bring the family back together in a way, and so because of him, they're healed.
Well, and he literally saved his life, and it's something like that's got to have an impact on you. E.T. saving Elliot's life, and so it's very, very touching and great. And it's interesting. I mean, it's surprising in a way that they never tried to do an E.T. sequel.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't do that.
So glad.
But I do wonder though, like I wonder if they were to ever like revisit that universe in some shape or form, what would Elliot and his family be up to now? You know what I mean? It's just like curiosity. You wonder that in your head, but it's like, do I want to see that in a movie? Probably not.
I definitely don't want to see like Henry Thomas back as an adult. Like I don't want Hook in the Hook storyline in E.T. Like that would be horrible. Like him becoming like this bitter, businessman, and then him connecting with E.T. That sounds horrible.
That sounds childhood ruined. Sorry.
Yeah. So like the only thing I guess maybe you could pull off is if you'd have to recast, but I don't like that idea. Don't do it.
No.
Steven, don't do it.
I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
Don't do it. But anyway, I just really admire them actually for not doing a sequel if they didn't feel like they had the idea or the to bring back E.T. and
and Hollywood, if you're listening to this, do not take any of this into consideration. Do not touch E.T.
Leave E.T. alone. I think as close as we've gotten to a remake is something like Stranger Things, but it's more of an homage to E.T.
Or like Super 8 in some ways.
Yeah. Super 8, that's a good one too. So yeah, like I said, it is very influential. Iron Giant, there's Lilo and Stitch, like there's a million shows, a million things that it's really influenced, and of course the score is very influential, and it's just a great movie. It'd definitely be up there if I did a ranking of some of my favorite movies. I put E.T. pretty high, I think. I really like it.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but okay, but I think as far as like childhood favorites, I don't know if it would be one of my absolute favorites because I didn't watch it as much as some other films, but if I were to rank like best Spielberg films, I think I would definitely put it up in like top 10 at least, because top 5 for Spielberg, that's like really hard, but a top 10 at least, E.T. would be somewhere in there.
I think it would make my top 5. I don't know. It's like impossible. I think I'd be like Schindler's List, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
yeah, and then Raiders,
Last
Jurassic
Crusade,
Jurassic Park,
Private Ryan.
E.T. Saving Private Ryan is really good. But yeah, it's impossible. It's an impossible. You can't rank
Yeah.
Spielberg. It's impossible.
Well, now
It's
that we're
so
talking
hard.
about this, you're actually making me. You're actually making me want to maybe do like another podcast
Yeah.
on Spielberg as a film director. Now,
Yeah,
I
that would
think
be
we
fun.
should do that sometime.
We should. So, all right. Well, yeah, I would definitely. I mean, I give this like my highest grade. I give it like an A plus. I really don't have. Do you have like what would you think are? Do you have any like weaknesses of the film?
Besides the mom, besides like what we said about the mom, I don't really have anything to really
Yeah.
complain about. Really, I think it's as close to perfect as you can get.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Well, so where can people find you?
You can follow me on my YouTube channel, Joe Tufano, and you can also follow me on Facebook, Joe Tufano Movie Reviews, and you can follow me on Twitter and my Instagram. I think I'll put the links. You can find the
Yeah.
links to it on my channel through there. And I talk about film mostly and favorite superheroes like Spider-Man, and I'm going to be doing a Star Wars series pretty soon on the Star Wars trilogy. So look forward to that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'll be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So yeah, you can find me on those places there.
Just the original trilogy, or are you doing all?
I've already done Force Awakens, but I might do a more in-depth video on that at some point soon in the future. No promises, but the original trilogy, I'm really excited to talk about that.
Cool. Yeah,
Because I got things to say about those who complain about Luke Skywalker in the original. I got some responses for that.
Yeah, yeah. I love Luke. He's it's easy to hate on the hero. The sidekicks are usually easier to love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the heroes. I love Harry. Harry is my favorite of Harry Potter. Luke is my favorite. But anyway, yeah. So you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media, and at my at my blog 54 Disney Reviews. I can't talk. And I'm going to be going to Comic-Con on Salt Lake City Comic-Con on Thursday.
Nice.
Friday and Saturday, so I'm going to have some kind of coverage like I did for D23, and I'm really excited because they have Dick Van Dyke is going to be there, which is going to be really awesome.
Cool.
Sound of Music. I can't talk today. No, from Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, so that'll be amazing.
I'm sorry.
I'm most excited on Friday. I get to have a photo op and meet Jodie Benson, who is the voice of Ariel, which is so exciting for me.
That's
cool. really. I'm going to wear cosplay all 3 days. I have a Snow White, I have an Ariel, and I have a Elsa from Frozen dress and wig. So
cool. Yeah, I'm going to a New York Comic-Con in a couple weeks, New York City, to meet just for the one day because it was the only available time by the time I got the tickets. But I'm going to meet Troy Baker, who's known for Joel in the Last of Us video game and voicing the Joker in the Batman Arkham Origins game, like a younger version of the Mark Hamill Joker. Which, speaking of which, I'm going to be getting a photo op with Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, and I am very excited.
That's really, really cool. It's really cool. So yeah, so that's going to be fun. And I will be doing sometime in the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing a Blade Runner podcast with my friend Patrick. We have next week, I'm doing another version of the pitch sessions. We did an animation pitch session, and now we're doing live action Disney pitch sessions where we each give our ideas for what we think would be a good movie for Disney. Ooh. That will be fun next Wednesday to look forward to. And I'm going to be doing a podcast with fellow YouTuber Paleostino on the My Little Pony movie when that comes out. And so there's a lot of fun stuff. The Hallmark podcast is about to start going really strong with the Christmas movies, so that'll be fun. So a lot of fun stuff going on. Yeah. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And thanks so much for talking about ET with me. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, no problem. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I miss doing like podcasting. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. And we'll have to do something for Christmas for sure.
We definitely have to. And I'm going to start to work on my list at some point soon to try to make it a little more new, I guess, in some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks. And let us know in the comment section what you think of ET. What are your memories of it? How you think it holds up? And if you are watching this today, you can still see it on the big screen tomorrow. So check it out. So thanks so much. And we will talk again soon.
See you guys.